Hello, and welcome to this month's virtual Curators Tour at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. I'm Elizabeth Kilmer, and I'll be your tour guide. Today we will be discussing Lost Man Blues, Jon Schueler, Art and War, an exhibition that poignantly brings together the moving and monumental paintings of Jon Schueler. The exhibition is on view now through June 13, 2021. The exhibition was curated by Marissa Roth and was inspired by her ongoing dedication to addressing the consequences of war. The contents of this tour have been adapted by Roth's writing for the exhibition. The exhibition is sponsored by the Howard P. Arnold Foundation. Born on September 12, 1916, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jon Schueler didn't set out to be an artist. He had envisioned being a writer. World War II interrupted that plan, and in 1941 he joined the United States Army Air Corps and became a B-17 navigator. He was sent to Molesworth, England the following year. He flew on numerous missions over Germany and France with the 303rd Bomber Group, 427th Squadron, and was one of only 2 men from the crew of the Bad Check to survive the war. He was hospitalized in the spring of 1943 because of exhaustion and anxiety, and was given medical retirement in 1944, a result of undiagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Schueler's battle with PTSD would be a strong motivation in his artistic career. He returned to the United States and settled in California, first in Los Angeles, where he took his first ever painting class, and then in San Francisco, where from 1949 to 1951 he studied full-time at the California School of Fine Arts. This would prove to be a pivotal point in his life, as his studies would awaken and inspire what became his life's path as an artist. Schueler moved to New York City in August 1951 and was introduced to artists Barnett Newman, Franz Kline, and Ad Reinhardt, among others. He visited Mark Rothko's studio and flourished in this group of abstract expressionist painters, where the encouragement of emotional intensity and creative spontaneity gave rise to this innovative post-war movement. However, after a few years, Schueler grew restless in the city and began longing for different surroundings. Growing up in Milwaukee by a lake, Schueler had experienced changeable weather and seasonal shifts in light in a natural setting. This formative experience would inform his impulse to place himself, without fully understanding why, in a kind of creative exile in Scotland, which braced and centered him for months, and then years at a time, over decades. He found solace and familiarity in this wild-hearted and all-enthralling locale, capped by the perpetual motion of the sky, where his own human nature could merge with the actual seascape and skyscape. This was the place where he trusted himself to remove the layers of self-deception, where he was inspired to express in paint the pain from the early loss of his mother, who died when he was 6 months old, as well as the heartache from dissolved love affairs and marriages. It was also where he began to work through his lingering PTSD from the war. When Schueler came to the Highlands of Scotland for the first time, he found the literal geographical place that had inhabited his dreams for a very long time. He felt that the truth, his truth, was in Northern Light, and he kept searching for it until he found it in the sky, as he looked westward from the rugged coast of Scotland along the Sound of Slate and towards the Isle of Skye, with the islands of Room and Mallaig in the distance. The small fishing village of Mallaig, and his later home and studio in a former schoolhouse renamed Romaseg, became the resting places for his determination and inspiration, and the source of his creative expression. It was the sketchbook for his imagination and sense of wonder, but it was also his perennial partner in an unending quest for a life filled with meaning, played out in the divide between his sense of failure as an artist and the success displayed in his breathtaking output of paintings. Schueler painted quickly, in inspired bursts of energy charged with his full life force, dominating the paint and the canvas while dueling with his own inner conflicts, which he not only acknowledged, but also consciously courted. Vigorously responding to the emotions evoked by the clouds, sky, sea, and land, his lifeblood metaphorically pulsed through his paintings. Without realizing it, he slowly started healing his unseen war wounds. He gradually came upon the years that would reveal his war-themed paintings, which he made in New York from 1979 to 1989, when he could reimagine those deep-rooted traumatic memories. The subject of his acute war trauma and the burden of his PTSD, the result of his experiences as a navigator who sat armed, yet physically detached, in the highly vulnerable plexiglass nose cone of a B-17, would not emerge so strikingly in his paintings until then. He was haunted by these war memories and the overwhelming responsibility of determining life, death, and the destruction on the ground below and in the skies. He suffered the continual loss of men in his squadron and also struggled with the deep guilt over a last-minute change of plans that resulted in his escaping the practice flight that killed the whole crew in a tornado. This perceived alteration of fate never found a place of reconciliation within his psyche. Schueler's war-themed paintings do not just reflect the horrors that he witnessed during the war, but also his awe of the beauty that he beheld as he literally flew in the clouds and watched the sky and horizon constantly change in a kind of surreal cinematic display. Many of his paintings, made over the decades, are from the memory of that elevated perspective in the sky. This is the first exhibition that showcases Schueler's war-themed paintings as a collective group, revealing a cohesive vision that specifically shows how his war experiences and lingering PTSD informed his creative expression. His painting Lost Man Blues, which lends its name to the title of this exhibition, refers to Schueler's love of the blues genre of music, but also to the loss of a plane in his squadron after a bombing mission over Germany. We can see this in the moodiness of the maroons and blues, mirroring both the emotions of blues and the tumultuous feelings Schueler must have felt on his mission over Germany. The fiery swatch of red in the lower right resembles a flame of a falling plane, careening towards the ground. The remainder of the composition resembles footage of a cloudy night during a bombing attack, as different mounds of cloud light up from the bombs below. We can feel the pressing boom of bombs going off, reverberating the sky. Gray Death Rising soberly anchors this body of work in the simple truth that death is ever present and can come at any moment during war. This painting has some of the most overt symbolism in the exhibition. In the near center of the composition, there is a form that strongly resembles a skull. Though stylized in pink, we can clearly pick out the eyes and mouth of the form as it emanates from the surrounding clouds towards the black swath of paint which comprises the entire left side of the painting. Schueler's continual contemplation and fear of death during the war is apparent in this painting. We can see this through his skull imagery, aggressive brushstrokes, and abundant use of blacks, grays, and blues. Wing Shadow over Gray Sea touches on the memory of his unique perspective as a B-17 navigator, and turns it into a profoundly beautiful and sorrowful painting that reminds the viewer of the devastating implications of the bombing missions. This is apparent through Schueler's use of a monochromatic color palette. The vast majority of the composition is made up of light grays and white, calling to mind soft, peaceful clouds, much like Schueler likely saw in the navigation nose of his plane. However, the outer edges of Wing Shadow over Gray Sea is framed in dark charcoal, reminding us of the death Schueler and his crew were constantly skirting. This group of war-themed paintings is juxtaposed with a smaller group of paintings made between 1968 to 1985, which reveal the subtle and dramatic seasonal transformation of the sky over the Sound of Slate, Scotland. We see winter light, a diffused sun, quiet dawns, and the visual dance between shadows and ethereal reflections. These paintings complement the war-themed paintings, as their inspiration comes from the same geographical location, while their emotional content provides a striking contrast. They are not about war or pain, but about Schueler's regard for the majesty of the realm of the sky. Witnessing the perpetual changes in the weather kept Schueler's attention very much in the present, affording him alluring vistas that would serve as a salve to overlay the visual memories of war held deeply within his mind's eye. We can see Schueler's different mindset in his approach to these paintings, specifically in his brushstroke and use of color. Two prime examples of this are New Shadow Blues and Reflection in Blue. New Shadow Blues resembles a soft dawn. There appears to be a body of water in the foreground, reflecting the morning sun on its surface as a mist rises to join the lush clouds above. There are also mountains in the background, peeking through the clouds, not yet woken by the morning sun. Reflection in Blue is reminiscent of a peaceful evening, full of lavenders, blues, and pinks. It appears to be wholly of an abstract sky and one on a quiet day. Schueler's brushstrokes are softer than those in his wartime paintings, as his hues easily shift from one to the other, creating a pleasant composition for the eye. For Schueler, nuance and expansiveness punctuate all his paintings, and the sky was his constant and inexhaustible subject. The questions were all there, and the answers too, which came in with the tempo of time, through his maturing process as a man and as an artist. The mystery was there as well, within the perceptible drama of the rapidly changing light and weather over the Sound of Slate, captured within a wide-ranging palette of colors, from pastels to crimson, grays, blacks, and whites. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual tour of Lost Man Blues by Jon Schueler. Visit our website at FWMoA.org for all upcoming events at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art.